What did the preacher forget to say? This week we were looking at end of Mark chapter 4 into chapter 5. There's loads of material there, so I guess forgot to say a huge amount. It's these big stories. One of the ways that you can delve into the Gospels, any of the Gospels, and find out a bit more about what's going on is not just to look at Jesus and what he says and what he does, but to look at the people around him and what are they doing and what are they saying. And so if you apply that into these stories, then it's quite fascinating to see what's going on around Jesus. So first of all, he's on the lake. He says, let's go over to the other side. To his disciples, they are professional fishermen, and it says the disciples woke him, said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown because there's a violent storm?" So they are absolutely bewildered, even though they're the experts. He rebukes the wind and the waves, "Be still." He says to them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" It goes, they were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." So they're terrified at him. Kind of even more than being terrified at the wind and the waves, because everything's gone smooth. I'm not saying that we should be terrified of God, because that's, he's our Heavenly Father and whatever, and we just spent ages trying to learn that he loves us, doesn't want to beat us up. But do we have a right kind of, are we amazed at God? Do we think, oh my goodness, he's extraordinary, this is sort of scary stuff? Reading the books of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, there's the character of Aslan, who is the Jesus Christ character. And there's something that is summed up really well in the character of Aslan, because the way people see him is they are loved by him, but they think he's a lion. And there is a kind of nervousness around him as well because of his power. And maybe sometimes we just get it. We either get it wrong in that we just think Jesus will do anything for us, and he's like our servant and like a little pocket Jesus, and he'll just do stuff for us. Or we think he hates us and we're just scared of him. Maybe what's going on with the disciples is they're just bouncing between these things, and they're scared of the wind and the waves, and they're scared of Jesus. There's terror around. But what about a respect for Jesus, who can speak to a storm and it stops? So there's that kind of, there's a bit of fear there. We'll come to that again. He goes over to the Gerasenes. There's a man with an evil spirit who shouts at Jesus. So his response to Jesus is he bows down before him, but he shouts at him saying, "What do you have to do with us, Son of the Lord Most High?" There is this, there's a fear there of Jesus, a fear of being, sorted out, I suppose. What would it be like if my life was sorted out? Would it be like if my anger and my rage was sorted out? What would I be like? What would I have left if I didn't have all the things to be angry about and fight against? What would happen to me if all the stuff that's defined me, the bad things that have defined me, I was free of them? Who would I be? Who would this guy be? So there's that. Then what happens is he gets released. He's in his right mind. So you'd have thought everyone would be really pleased. And it says when the people who had kind of seen all this, when they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed in his right mind, and they were afraid. So as more people are afraid now, the disciples are afraid, they're afraid. It's like, oh my goodness, he's bigger than us. And then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region, not to stay and do more. And hey, can you sort this out? Can you sort my friend out? Can you sort me out? But to leave. So that's fascinating. So they're really afraid. Why do they want him to leave? Maybe because, again, he's just disturbed too much. He's too disturbing. There's too much going on. If actually he is in charge, then all kinds of things that we take for granted, we might have to change. There's a nervousness about Jesus being king, and they don't want him. They say, can you please leave? Actually, we just don't want any more of you sorting people out. So that's interesting. So three lots of people. You've got disciples, and you've got this man who kind of doesn't want Jesus anywhere near him. Then you've got the big crowds, and they don't want Jesus anywhere near them. That's sort of interesting. He's really disturbing. There's a lot about Jesus. Following Jesus is not just kind of nicey-nicey. It's just, it will really disturb us. It will sort us out. It will change our culture. It will change how we do things. It will change how we earn our money. It will change how things are distributed. It will change how we work. It will change justice. It will change the big systems and the small things. Do we want Jesus? So then he crosses over by the boat, and this is in chapter 5. Then one of synagogue rulers named Jairus, he comes up to Jesus, pleads earnestly with him, falls at his feet. That's an interesting reaction. So here's someone who's got loads of respect, he's got loads of power, probably quite wealthy, and he's willing to give it all up, willing to look a fool, willing to, maybe he's going to get kicked out of the synagogue. They do kick people out of the synagogue for following Jesus. What would happen to his position, to his money, but the health of his daughter is worth more to him than his status at this stage. That's interesting. So that's his reaction, is I'll actually just give everything up. I'll make myself look very humble before you because I just want my daughter to be healed. So then Jesus goes off to heal the daughter, and in the meantime there's a woman who comes up, and you kind of get, obviously Mark or someone has interviewed this woman later, because this woman has suffered a great deal under doctors. She's paid loads of money and not got anything. So that's just a horrible injustice. Instead of getting better, they've made her worse. She comes up because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. So it's kind of, she's just thinking, oh, I could just touch him. That's her response, is rather than all these other people who are afraid of him, if I can just get near enough, I'll be healed. She's got no power, she's really hurt, but like Jairus, she's just going, I'll just do anything. I would do anything to have something of Jesus. And so she does that. He says, who touched me? She then, he kept looking around, so he had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. Now that's everything, the whole truth. It was the doctors did this. It's like everything, every injustice, everything that happened to her, the whole truth, everything that she'd felt, she just pours out of her. But she's trembling with fear. Why is she afraid? She's probably afraid of the people around. She's afraid of the disciples. She's afraid of Jesus. Oh my goodness, what she's done. So there's more fear. There's all these different fears going on. There's fear, respect. There's fear and trembling. There's fear at Jesus' authority. There's fear that Jesus is going to ruin our economy. There's fear that he'll sort us out and we'll never be the same. It's just fear upon fear upon fear. And he calls her daughter. He says, your faith has made you well. Then what happens is the people come to Jesus and they go, why bother the teacher anymore? Why bother? Why bother? The girl's died. He says, don't be afraid, just believe. He gets there, he says, what's all this commotion and wailing? But they laughed at him. And so that's their reaction, is just to mock his stupidity. It's gone from people who are really scared of him to people who are mocking him. And then he goes into the room, he takes the mum and dad, he takes 3 disciples, takes the girl by the hand, speaks to her little girl, get up, and he says, give her something to eat. There's all these different reactions, and I find it fascinating. So you can look at Jesus and what he does and how he handles things. He's asleep, he speaks, he commands, he does this, he was saying this, who touched me here, just all this kind of stuff. Or you could look at the people around him, and most of them are scared. Most of them are just scared witless. And it helps us think, who is this Jesus? Would I give everything up for him? Would I lay down everything that's special to me? Who I've become, who I am? Does he love me? Will he heal me? What would it mean if he was really Lord of my life or Lord of my town? It would just be really different. And we would have to live differently if the kingdom of heaven really came. And I guess that's scary. If he really can do all this stuff, if he can overcome creation itself, and if he can overcome 1,000 demons, if he knows when power flows from him, if he can raise people from the dead, scary stuff. And I suppose, do we want that Jesus? Or do we want a cozy little Jesus who is on hand for when we need him, but at other times we'd rather get on with our lives? And that's quite challenging, because he really does disturb everything. And that's quite scary.